What if you could go to a place where, let's just call it a store or a supply place, and you could pick out if you needed more patience, or if you could pick out needing understanding, or if you could pick out calmness, or you could pick out, more love, or if you could pick out less negative, and you can pick out more positive, and all this. I mean, what if you could do that? There's the question, because the question is that you have the ability to do that. It's called Source. And in this book that this gentleman wrote, this Chris Lee book on transforming your life, it's an easy read. So Burney liked it when he was able to read a full chapter in probably 7 minutes. So I like that. But the interesting thing is the chapter that I'm doing is principle number 9, and it's the principle of sourcing. And I was like, hey, sourcing, that's so easy, because sourcing is God. I can walk up there and say, look, you got God as your source, and sermon's done. Here's the kicker, though, is that it's when we look at sourcing and when I look at God, the first thing we have to do, or what I would suggest we are able to do, is we need to accept the fact that it's inside of us. And sourcing isn't something that maybe some of us have been taught that's out there, that it's in a religious group, or it's in another kind of group, or my neighbor has it, or my work has it. God is everywhere. There's no question about that. However, you don't have to go look for God. Or you guys can use it, if God disturbs you or you don't like that word, you can use your higher power, and in this case you can use source. But I'm going to use God, and as I speak and if I say God, then just plug those words in there that are good for you. So we have to put ourselves in a position where we understand that we have all that inside of us. And how many of us have sat there and said, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I don't have enough weight on me. I'm not, I have my hair too long. Why don't people like me? Why aren't I hanging out with this? Why doesn't my boss like me? I mean, you can just go on and on and on and on and on. The deal is that you're allowing yourself to be transformed by what others think about you. And as we're young, that's where we kind of get that. That's where we kind of learn that. If my grandparents would have told me that, Burney, you weren't going to amount to anything, you're never going to stand on a stage and speak to people and express your truth, I most likely probably wouldn't have been here. There's a chance, but the chance of me not being here is a lot greater than the chance of me being here. So I didn't get that. But I do know, and I have had a number of friends that have come to me and said, I don't understand why this is happening to me. I don't understand why I don't have this. I don't understand. I don't understand. Well, where does the belief come from? And how do you change that belief? Well, the first thing that I would recommend, and to read Mr. Lee's book here, is to realize that source is inside of you. To realize that you have it in there, and you can go to that store and you can go to that supply place and get all those things anytime that you want. To allow yourself to be in that situation where if I'm feeling lack, or if I need just a jolt, and to understand that I'm standing in the truth of who I am, that's where you can go. But you can't, in my opinion, you can't go to source if you don't believe in yourself. So starting with the fact, because it's really no good, because you'll create negative energy around you. You'll create negative energy around me, and maybe you won't move forward, or maybe you won't take that step, or maybe you won't, say, if people tell you can't read, you won't read. Well, why don't you read? Because I've been told that I can't read all my life. So that's not you. Being able to understand that you are that person, you are that entity, you have that source inside of you. And Ernest Holmes, God bless Ernest Holmes, one of the things that he did so so masterfully is he talked about how we are part of that source. How we're in that source. There is no place where God is not. I hear Gail say that all the time. It's very true. Ernest Holmes was getting us to the point where we could understand, or we could identify with the fact that it's not something out there. It's something inside of here. And by being something inside of here, we're able to be out there. He brought it into he brought it into a focus that we could possibly understand it, but he was always preaching about the one. We are the micro of the macro. And God is everywhere. If you can see God in every person who you're around and everything that you're around, I want to sit by you, and I want you to talk to me how you do that. Because that's a big thing. Being able to know that it's not about what other people say about me or about you that allows you to function and proceed without being scared, without being frightened, without having fear. So here's the other thing that Mr. Lee talked about and Ernest talks about a lot, is that we have to be, you get to the point where you have an abundance and prosperity. You hear B talk about it all the time, but abundance and prosperity, that's all good because it's all there. He explains, or he talks about in his chapter about the other side of that is that if you are fearful, then you draw that fear towards you and around you. Ernest Holmes talked about it all the time. Jesus talked about it a lot. Anybody in New Thought kind of talk about it, is that as soon as you can get to the point where you can recognize the fear and then you let it go, and you switch that around to happiness, or you switch that around to it's not going to affect me inside anymore. I'm going to take a stance right here. The line has been drawn right here and no further. Star Trek. So if you can do that, and if you can take that step forward and allow yourself to change, to bring in more of yourself, of the fact that who you are, the truth of who you are. We have a great practitioner core here. Find a practitioner, sit with them, because they will tell you, they will sit in your truth. And when you start to veer off, I talked about Susan earlier. She would always do that with me when I would start talking about that. She'd, Burney, is that really true? Burney, that's not true. Or she would say, think of it this way. And she has helped me in many a time of spare when I would get feeling in that fearful moment. And sometimes as soon as she says it, then it's like, yeah, why am I scared of that? Why am I letting that control what I do in a negative way? You know, it's like my wife gets a little frustrated with me at times, and she'll be saying something all week, maybe all month. Oh, let's just call it all year. And I listen to her and I don't hear her. And then we'll go over to her parents' house, and mom and dad will say, hey, did you know this, this, and this? I said, no, I didn't know that. And I get in the car and I'm driving home and I'm going, hey, did you hear what dad said? He said this, this, and this. And she'll just roll her eyes and goes, I've been telling you that for a year. Sometimes we just need people to say it who have a major influence on me. I'm not saying my wife doesn't have a major influence on me, but apparently I need to listen to her more. Yeah. So as you identify those things, and as you can do that, then that allows you to take that step forward. I mean, it's nothing more scarier to me than not to know what is the next step. Well, it's not for me to know what is the next step. What is for me to know is to know the truth of who I am, and that I can take that next step. I mean, Mr. Lee talks about too is that, you know, we are responsible. We take actions for how we think. And once you can get to that point of taking responsibility for it, meaning like I have a prosperous life and I have a loving wife and I have a great family, I have a great Genesis family, I can move forward. But if I'm saying, oh boy, you know, I don't have a loving wife and I don't have a supporting family, then things start to feel a little scary. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I kind of go in the corner and huddle up and feel, you know, where am I going to go? So once you can step beyond that, once you take responsibility, and I'm not saying you don't take responsibility, let's say you take more responsibility, but if you read the book, he says take responsibility. So as you take that and put that into you and allow yourself to say, that has no control over me. The negativeness, the fear, my dog bites me when I pet him, whatever. The negative things that are happening in your life, if you can take responsibility for that, and more responsibility for that, recognize it for what it is, and put it in its place, you have no control over me. You can't argue with hope. Because hope is the big key factor. If you play pinochle, it's the ace of trump. It's the one thing that nobody can take away from you when you have this hope. They can't tell you any negative things. They can't tell you you're not going to do things. They tell you, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you got gray hair, whatever the case may be. They can't tell you any of that if you have hope that someday I'm going to grow another inch, or someday I'm going to lose weight, or and let's not even say someday, let's say right now. To move into what is right now. So this source thing here, which is interesting, which is, like I said, I refer to God. God, if somebody has not told you yet, God is not against you. I can stand up here and I can stand right here and say, God is not against you. In fact, I can go as even far as say that God loves you. And God is in your life if you see it or not. How much you see, how vivid it is, what it creates, is all up to you. And the first thing that I would start saying is that wherever you're feeling that lack, let's when your brain starts saying lack, start putting abundance in there. Start putting prosperity in there. Start putting, I have more than I need. I might not be utilizing it, and I might not see it the way I should, but I have more than I need. More than I need. Once you're able to start pulling yourself out of wherever you're at into that fear and that negative stuff, you'll start seeing your life, I believe, you'll start seeing your life prosper, have abundance, see more source. When I look at all you, all I see is love. When I look at all you, all I see is a kind, loving community. When we do fellowship out here, oh my God, I wish that would be most of the sermon. Let's just do fellowship all the time, because that just feels really good that we're all in this together. And we're talking, we're being part of the community, we're even engaged in what we're feeling about how you're doing. Yeah, and if somebody says something's not going so well, what's the first thing we do? One of the first things we do. I'm sorry to hear that. We're compassionate. We're a great group, us and the people online as well. So the source and things. So God is out there. You can see and do anything you want. I mean, I was reading about a 94-year-old lady who just got her master's degree. Now, I'm not really sure what she's going to do with it, but that's not for me. That's not for me to judge her. If we can stay away from that judging and just embrace it and go, there's a 94-year-old woman that can do that. I'll say this, and it's not entirely true, but I'll say this. I hope I'm going to school at 94 years old. Yeah. I'm maybe not an organized school, maybe classes at Genesis or something, but I'm not so sure I want to go to school anymore, because my ghostwriter there gets tired of writing my papers. So, that I seen, there's a lady who was 101, maybe 102 now, and she runs the marathon somewhere all the time, every year. Well, not all the time, once a year. 101. And so what happens is I start associating, well, first of all, none of my immediate family has made it to 101, so I don't have anything to relate it to. So you talk about fear, so there's fear like, well, I'm not going to be running a marathon at 101 because none of my family has ever made it to 101. So I need to change that. I need to be able to make it to 101 and be in good condition and be able to run if that's something I want to do. My knees are shot, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But nevertheless, there's going to be something else when I'm 101 that I do that none of my other family members have done. I don't know what it is, but it'll be something. So if you can change, I think one of the most negative things that can happen is that my dad had diabetes, had diabetes, and so automatically everybody wants to think, well, when you get to be his age, I am 2 years past when my dad died. So when I get to be his age, I'm going to have diabetes. Why? Because it runs in the family. Why? Okay, that has to run. Maybe it did run in the family, but you have to change it somewhere. You have to change your thought process somewhere. And where does that all come from? It comes from source. God, your higher power. Allow yourself to step into that. Allow yourself to step into that. Being able to help yourself and nourish yourself and go back to more and more, knowing the truth of who you are, is the greatest thing there is. Now, I care what my wife thinks about me. I care what my daughter thinks about me. I care what my parents think about me. But guess what? There's things that are who I am. I'm always going to be a Dolphin fan. Thank God the 49ers played on Thursday night, or my family wouldn't be here. So, there's just certain things in life that aren't going to change when it comes to that, because that's who Burney Campbell is. And so you start thinking about things like that. What really, it is not up to us to worry about what other people think about us. And if we could just step out of that. I mean, from a very young age, we are expected to please, or we are expected to obey, or we are expected to do what our parents tell us to do. And I think in many ways, that's, yes, we need that structure, but I can't have my parents going, when your dad was a diabetic, so you got to watch yourself, so you're going to be a diabetic. I can't have that, because I've changed that. I'm not going to be that. So I encourage you to look at yourself. I encourage you to be put in a situation where what are those key words that get you excited? What are those things that, in a good way? And what are those words that put you in a situation where you're going, no, I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I want to do that. And take a look at that. Now, I'm not saying put yourself in harm. My wife, Gail and I were going to go jump out of an airplane at one point, and we might still do that, but my wife's like, nope, I ain't going to do that. Nope. And Paul said, nope, I ain't going to do that either. So don't put yourself in harm's way, but know what the fear is. Are you scared of jumping out of the airplane, or are you scared of the effect of jumping out of the airplane? I'm sure that Courtney could jump out of an airplane if it was on ground. But I'm sure that the process of jumping out of an airplane and what happens next is where her fear comes from. So yeah, I'll jump out of an airplane. I'm done. So putting yourself into that and allowing yourself to look at that. And source is always, that's the other thing, is source is always there. It never leaves. It never leaves. It doesn't go like, hey, I'm punching out for a 10-minute break. Or I'm going on a lunch break. Or I can't do that. I got somewhere else I got to be. Source is always with you. You are never abandoned. You are always with it. You are always embraced by it. Now, depending on depending on how you grew up and maybe how things have influenced you in your life, you might have some struggles or some things around source. And what I'm saying by that is this philosophy doesn't teach that you have to do anything to have source, because source is right here. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a life somewhere. That doesn't mean that you haven't grown up and you have a history. And that's what I'm talking about, is those things that were put into you at some point of your life, saying that you have to do something to get something from source. I encourage you to reevaluate that, because it's not true. I'll stand right here and not true. I'll have a practitioner session with you and let you know it's not true. God is on your side. Source is on your side. So being able to identify that and being able to know that There's your power. Power, not the kind of power like I can push Courtney out the airplane and make her jump, but the power in the fact of knowing that it doesn't matter to me. Would I want her to go through the experience? Of course, but it doesn't matter to me if she's going to jump out the airplane or not. You know, that's Courtney. That's Courtney's life. Does she want me to do it with her? Of course I'll do it with her. But I can't make her do it. So knowing who you are and what you are, and expectations. Don't allow yourself to be put in a situation where you start expecting things from people. Oh my God. One thing when Courtney and I got to, we're getting a Courtney and Burney lesson, I guess, today. One thing when Courtney and I got together is that Courtney has come a long way when it comes to fixing dinner. But when we first got together, I didn't tell her that she needed to fix dinner every night. We'd be eating out, I think. But now we're to the point where she cooks it, but I don't expect it. I don't expect it. And because I don't expect it, then I don't have any expectations for her. And if I don't have the expectations for her, then she can't do anything right or wrong. Because everything she does is right. We could debate that at times. Yeah. We can debate that at times, but really, we are who we are. And you do what you do. And it's okay. It's okay that my coworker doesn't like some of the things I do. But I'm not hurting him any. And I like to believe I'm not hurting myself. So it's okay to get along, to understand, and to know the source is there. And if I'm not seeing, if Courtney does do something that irritates me, which she hardly ever does, but if she does do that, then I just sit in myself and say, you know, life is good. And she's going to do that no matter what. So it's what I take from that. It's what the emotions that come from that. So that's a lot of information. So I leave you with, you are loved. You are not alone. You are not judged by who or what you have. You're not judged by the car you drive. You're not judged by the number in the bank account. You're not any of that because you're loved. You are who you are for a reason. And if you don't see that reason again, see a practitioner, see me, see Gail. So I leave you with all that. I leave you with source is that supply place. Source is that store. And you don't have to go anywhere for it. That's more of a metaphor. It's inside of you. Yes? Even Ryan knows it. She knows it. And just be able to sit with yourself and know that you're loved, like I said. So, let's pray. If you'd be so kind to join me, if you want to close your eyes, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Taking a breath together is like that heartbeat of the one. To be able to know that you are here for a purpose. To know that you all know that the value of who you are. To know that you are loved. You are that person. You are being able to focus on the love that who you are. To allow the point that you don't allow others to influence who you are. To know that that vibration of who you are holds great power. And that power is sourced. Knowing that you are that love. Knowing that as you come in contact with people, they see that light in you. They see the God-like truth of you and who you are. Knowing that each and every day there is something to be grateful for and that you see it, acknowledge it, and be with it. I hold all this true. I know that the words that are spoken are just that, words that are spoken in the minds of all of us and in the mind of God. I bless each and every one of you. I bless the folks online. I know that life is great right here and right now and continues each and every moment that we take a step forward. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.